you all enjoyed that, because now it's red pill time.
I don't go around this country sitting in mansions, collecting millions of dollars, hearing the woes of billionaires.
That's because Beach House Bernie would much rather sit in his own mansion and wait for the billionaires to come to him. If you don't believe me, just take a look at this list of Bernie Sanders' largest campaign donors.
And we listen to young people, and this is what young people are telling me. They're saying, Bernie, how does it happen that we have to end up $30,000, $50,000, $80,000 in debt for the crime of trying to get a decent education?
Well, if that's the case, you had no business going to college in the first place. Guys, I have a few life lessons for leftists out there. Number one, always measure risk versus reward. If you're going to go to college to become a doctor or a lawyer and you need to borrow $10,000 to pay for that last semester, that risk is worth the reward. But if you're a little Jimmy SJW and you're getting a degree in women's studies and you want to borrow $70,000 to pay for all 4 years, you might as well light that money on fire. You do not even need to be going to college if that is the case, right? I mean, here's the thing. If you were getting a degree in the humanities as your primary degree, and you're borrowing $70,000 on top of that to pay for it, you were too stupid to be in college. College is not for you. Now, second life lesson. Don't buy stuff on credit. The only thing you should ever buy on credit is your house. Okay? It's an appreciating asset, so taking a loan on it is not a big deal. But taking a loan out the size of a mortgage to pay for college, again, you are too stupid to be in college if that is the case. It is not your time to go to college. Either go back and repeat high school or go join the army like I did. They'll pay for your school. Maybe go learn a trade. Guys, people forget how rewarding it is to work with your hands, to build something. And I know people who are doing HVAC repair and welding who are making as much as engineers, as much as some lawyers. So, you know, it's an underappreciated career field. And really, guys, when you think about it, our founding fathers were men who could build with their hands as well as philosophize.
What I ask of you and I ask of the American people is think outside of the box, think outside of the status quo. Take a deep breath and just ask yourself this question. Everybody here knows, everybody in America knows, that in order to compete in a competitive global economy, we need the best educated workforce in the world. Correct?
Wrong. You see, even Bernie doesn't believe this BS. He's just throwing out these platitudes for these college kids behind him who have bought into the college con. You see, the greatest, most competitive country on the world stage right now is China, and they do not have a highly educated workforce. What they do have is a high IQ population, and they have a very industrious population, something these spoiled brats behind Bernie would never understand. Secondly, China has all of our old jobs, all of our old industries, and that is because people like Bernie Sanders passed bad socialist and left-wing policies that chased all these businesses off American soil. And now that we have somebody like Trump in the office and he's just relaxing a little bit on the business restrictions, we are seeing these companies coming back. So we do not need everybody in America to be college educated. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We really need more people to be brought up to work hard, to do labor jobs, to do technical jobs, things like, build computers. We need people who are trained in industry and machining, things like that. That is how we keep our country's hegemony intact.
We should not be punishing people for getting an education. We should encourage people to get an education.
Yeah, you just want to punish people for becoming wealthy. And what else encourages people to get an education more than the profit motive? Something that Bernie Sanders is very much against.
You want to hear crazy? Here's crazy. Talk to a young person in Iowa, went to college for 2 years, $60,000 in debt, dropped out of school. A young woman in Burlington, Vermont, my city. Her dream was to go to medical school. She accomplished that dream. Now practicing primary health care. She has $300,000 in debt. A young dentist in Iowa, $400,000 in debt. It is crazy. It is absolutely crazy.
Yes, that is crazy. Because if you have to borrow $100,000 a year to pay for school, you have no business in that school. Schools like Harvard, like Yale, like Centenary, where my little sister went. These schools were created for wealthy families to send their kids there. They were not made for every bum to come in off the street and pay for it with student loans. Okay? And if you think that's unfair, if you think that's inequality, what do you think's going to happen if you get your little socialist utopia? You'll still have the political class. They'll send their kids to a special school, and the rest of the people, like you, will be stuck going to the crappy public ones.
So we're going to do two things. Number one, in the year 2016, when we talk about public education, you cannot just continue to talk about first grade through 12th grade. The world has changed. First grade through 12th grade was a great idea 50 years ago. You had a high school degree 50 years ago. You can go out and earn a good living. That world has changed.
He is right. The world has changed, but not in the way that he is alluding to. You see, I live in a pretty nice area, and half of my neighbors did not go to college. Many of them are small business owners. Some of them are welders. Some of them are long-haul truck drivers making $80,000 a year hauling chemicals. You know who does not live in my neighborhood? People with $80,000 in student debt and a humanities degree.
That world has changed. So when I talk about public education today, it must mean free tuition at public colleges and universities.
Boy, the Democrats love that word free, unless it is free speech or free to bear arms. The fact is that our government right now has $20 trillion in debt. They cannot afford to send every kid in America to college, and they would not. Right now we have the best universities in the world. That's because they charge such high tuitions. That is how they pay for the best laboratories, the best sports programs, the best social sciences programs. Do you really think the government is going to spend $20,000 a year on average to send each kid to school? No. They will start limiting who can go to school. And at that point, they will start bringing in the same ridiculous quotas that they enforce everywhere else. So the best people will not end up in school, and our nation will again not be competitive on the world stage.
Some people say, oh, this is a radical idea. It is not a radical idea. It is not a radical. I mean, right now, tuition, college education in Germany, Scandinavia is free. All right, and it's free because they understand that the future of their countries depend on young people getting the best education that they can.
Ah, yes, the Scandinavia argument. Let's go ahead and debunk that. So these countries Bernie Sanders mentioned are small European countries with very high tax rates. Also, these countries were culturally homogenous and did not have the welfare state that we have here in the United States. That said, things are changing in these European countries. They have brought in populations that do not have the education or the IQ of their ethnic populations. And with that, they are abusing the welfare state. That is why so many of these countries are now in austerity. Every day you see articles about cuts to these national healthcare systems throughout Europe. On top of all of that, these countries do not have to pay for a military because the United States stands as their military. Sure, they have an army, but when the USSR was on their doorstep, it was our missiles, it was our soldiers protecting these small countries. we bear the biggest burden in NATO. And you know what? We also pay these countries billions of dollars to house our military bases. So if you took that money away, these countries would not be able to pay for any of these welfare programs.
So this is not a radical idea. In fact, I'll tell you this. Some of you may not know this. 50 or 60 years ago, you could go to major and excellent public colleges and universities in America virtually tuition free. That was America back then. If we could do it 60 years ago, we damn well can do it today.
So you're saying you want to make America great again? Sounds good to me. Look, guys, follow my channel. It's The Patriot Punk on YouTube and InfoWars Stop the Purge on YouTube. Also, check out my videos on Dapperton's Liberty Network. I'm outie.